Hey, it's Denise from loom.com. This time I want to show you how to knit this very pretty butterfly stitch pattern. It's also known as the Bowknot stitch, and it is not reversible in the least bit, but once you steam block it, it is beautiful. In fact, let me take you one step back to before I steam blocked it, and you can see that it's a bit more puffy. And personally, for my swatch, I did not put a border, and so you do see that it does curl a bit on that border, and that it's kind of spiky, right? I did put on both edges 2 knit stitches, and those 2 knit stitches on my swatch before I blocked it were curling, so you could see that right here. Alright, as we move forward, I do want to remind you that this is a stitch pattern only video, and for that reason I will not be going through the cast on and cast off. I will not be showing you how to do cast off or cast on, because that's determined by the project you choose to make with this stitch pattern. But I do want to give you some details on what I did for my swatch. For instance, my stitch mark placement. Here I did a rubber band stitch marker for my 2 knit stitches, and then right here I started with the first of the 10 stitches that make up the pattern, and I did put a stitch marker every 5 stitches, and I'll show you why I did that. I then repeated those 10 stitches 2 more times for a total of 3 repeats, plus the 2 knit stitches at the end and the beginning. Alright, without further ado, how about we get started with row 1. So first, there's those 2 knit stitches that are not part of the pattern, right? You ignore those first 2, and then you're going to knit 10. So row 1, you're basically just going to knit the row. And this is an odd number row, which is what you're going to do on most of your odd numbered rows, except for 2 of them. You're just going to knit the row. For row 2, you're going to slip 5 with yarn in front and then knit 5. It's way easier than it sounds, so just stay with me. I'm going to show you each part of it. Now, that first 5 parts is that you're slipping 5 of those pegs, and you want the yarn in front of the fabric. So it's going to look like this. That's what those slip 5 with yarn in front look like. So you start off by taking the loop off that first peg, and then taking the yarn, and you're going to put it behind the peg, which leaves it in front of the fabric. And then you put the loop back on the peg. Alright, let's do that one more time, because this is what you want. You want your yarn to be in front of your fabric. So again, you take the loop, you take your hook from the top and take the loop off the peg, then take the yarn and you're going to put it behind the peg and in front of the fabric, and then put your loop back on the peg. Alright, let me show you an easier way that I learned with someone named Kimberly Cardigan, because you have a lot of these to make. So we want to do it the easy way. Start with the working yarn under the existing loop, then take the hook from the top. You're going to scoop up the working yarn and create a new loop as if you were doing a purl stitch, and you're going to take that new loop behind the tip of that peg and then pull on the working yarn, and that strand will fall behind the peg and in front of the fabric. This version is much easier and much faster. So you're going to do that again, because you need 5 of these. So you take the hook, you create a new loop, and you just take that loop and open it and push it back behind the peg, and then pull on the working yarn, and the yarn will drop behind the peg and will basically land in front of the yarn, in front of the fabric. Alright, so this is my last one because I'm doing 5 of them. Again, I put the hook in the loop, grab the working yarn that's under the loop, and pull it up as if I was going to do a purl, create that loop, and then take that loop and like push it behind the peg, and then take the working yarn and pull on it, and your yarn will drop behind the peg. Now that was your 5, slip 5 with yarn in front, and now super easy, you're just going to knit 5. Now in this direction I like to use the U-wrap version of the knit stitch, so I'm basically half wrap and knit, but you can also use the flat version, which is just laying your yarn loosely over the existing loops and then just knit off. You can also use the true, and I'll show you how to do the true knit stitch in a moment. Now just repeat that as many times as you want. Remember that for my swatch, I repeated these 10 stitches 3 times in total, so I'm going to repeat them 2 more times, and I'm going to let you watch me knit, because this is basically the gist of the pattern. If you learn these, slip 5 with yarn in front and then knit 5, you got this, you got the pattern. That's all you have to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you watch me do this all 3 times for this row, for row 2. All right, so we're knitting 5, and then we're gonna repeat again, slip 5 with yarn in front and knit 5. While you guys do that, let me take this time to say thank you to Carol Maple from PromiseLearningATL.com, Elise Patron, Penny Pitchard, Kristen Stone, Barbara Ledger, and Joel Gittleman for covering the cost of closed captioning this video for you. Thank you so much. Alrighty, let's keep going. And as we move on, I want to remind you that those 2 knit stitches are not part of the pattern, okay? So now moving to the actual pattern for rows 3 through 10, all you're going to do is repeat rows 1 and 2 4 more times. And for people that get confused when I say this, let me show you what I mean by that by basically typing it out for you. As you can see, rows 3 through 10, they're just rows 1 and 2 in that order, row 1 and then row 2, again and again and again and again. So that's 4 times that you are repeating rows 1 and 2. And what that's going to give you is those 5 strands that we're going to pull together to make the butterfly. So for row 11, it's a little bit tricky, and I want you to pay attention. Once you finish with rows 3 through 10, let's go ahead and tackle row 11. For row 11, you're going to first knit 7, right? And then you're going to knit 1 under the loose stitches and finish your 10 stitch pattern with 2 knit stitches. So first, those knit 7, and in my case I'm going to be using the flat version of the knit stitch. You can use the U or the true. Now when we get to the next portion where it's the knit 1 under the loose stitches, my clip got messed up for that video, so I had to record it later on, and so you'll see where the color and the lighting change a little bit. Don't panic, we're still in the same spot and we're still doing the same thing. All right, so get ready. Let's go ahead. We've done those 7 knit stitches, and now we're ready for the knit 1 under the loose stitches. So first, take the loop off that peg, and then you're going to pick up those loose stitches that are under. You see them right there? Those are the 5 loose strands that you've had, and you want to make sure that you have all 5 of them and you don't leave any behind. And once you've done that, you can go ahead and put the loop back on the peg, and then you're going to take your working yarn and you're going to put that one over all the 5 strands and the 1 loop. You put your working yarn over it, and then with your hook you're going to go through all of that and pull that working yarn down to create a new loop. And you're going to take all of those 5 loops and the loop that was on the peg off of it and put the new loop on. that is actually a true knit stitch, and that's what you need to do. Then you're just going to continue with your 2 knit stitches. And I want you to note that you have like this bundle in the back of your stitch right here on the back of your peg. It's okay, and you'll see that once you knit off, everything will look beautiful. Then you're going to repeat those 10 stitches as many times as is necessary for your particular project. I repeated mine 3 times for my swatch, but whatever works for you is what you do. All right, now we're ready to go to row 12, where you're going to knit 5 and slip 5 with yarn in front. And if you've been paying attention, you basically flipped this pattern. It was first slip 5 with yarn in front and then knit 5, but now here you're flipping it, sort of like a basket type of stitch, right? And then I want you to notice right here is where that bulk of those loose strands is, those 5 strands. See, all you're gonna do is knit that off, and there's nothing to think about. You're just gonna knit those 5 stitches, and that one will be fine, and you'll see that it works out perfectly. So don't panic when you see that big bulk of yarn behind your peg. All right, so now, just like before, we're going to oh, and I wanted to show you this right here. That's what it looks like now, but once you pull your stitches, it's going to look great. All right, so just like before, you're going to slip 5 with yarn in front. So this is the hack version that I taught you at the beginning, which goes much faster and much easier. Or you can go back to the older version where you pull the loop up and then put the yarn behind. Use what feels comfortable for you. You don't have to do my method. All right, and then keep in mind that your yarn has to anchor to somewhere, right? Which is why I end with those 2 knit stitches, because those loose strands, they have to attach to something. All right, for row 13, it's an odd number row. All you're going to do is knit the row. The next thing you're going to knit are rows 14 through 19, and for this you're going to repeat rows 12 through 13 3 more times. So just like we did with rows 1 and 2 that we were repeating, I want you to visually see the repeats. So you can see here 14 and 15, and then 16, 17, 18, 19, and remember the odds are just knitting the row. All right, and then for row 20, you're going to knit 5 and then slip 5 with yarn in front. You guys already know how to do that, so I want to go ahead and show you row 21, where you're going to knit 2 and then knit 1 under the loose stitches and knit 7. I want you to see again the knit 1 under the loose stitches, which has several names, but that's the one we're going to use for this pattern. So you're knitting those first 2 stitches, and then you're going to take the loop off your peg, and I especially want you to see this because I really kind of messed up, and I want you to see how I messed up. So remember I said you have to make sure that you pick up your 5 strings. You have to make sure you pick the 5 correct strings. See, I brought up the wrong one and left behind the one I needed, so I only have 4. Here's the 5th. It's in the wrong order, so I try to, as best as I can, to put them in order before I do the knit off. And sorry that it's a little blurry. At this point I was kind of tired, so stuff happens. Y'all know how that is. All right, so you put the working yarn on top, scoop it down to collect everything, take it off the peg, and then pull on your yarn to tighten that, and then you're going to do those knit stitches. Now while you guys are knitting that off, I want to take this time to say thank you to Lori Reese and the rest of my Patreon family for all the support that they give me all year long. Alright, so row 21 is the last row, but I have some very, very important things to tell you, so pay close attention. What you're going to do is you're going to repeat from row 2 through row 21 as many times as is necessary for your project. And the reason I wanted to emphasize this is because usually you start your row repeat on row 1, but not this time. This time you're going to start your row repeats with row 2. So 2 through 21 as many times as is necessary. And another thing that I wanted you guys to take a look at is this is what the fabric looks like before you pull on your stitches. So it looks kind of wacky, and I don't want you to think that you're doing something wrong. You have to pull on those stitches. You need to stretch them, and you may have to help some of the butterflies, right, by kind of pulling on those loose strings like this. That's going to help your fabric look great. And another thing I want you to do is I want you to consider sharing the video, because it helps me so much, and also to subscribe and hit that reminder so that you don't miss anything. And the most important thing of all is use your loom to love on someone. All right, guys, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this project and you will come back and loom with me over and over again. All right, much love. Bye.